Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Subculture. I'm Dave G, and joining me right now is my co-host,
Papa Smurf.
And as we always do on Subculture, we're going to be taking a look at everything that's been happening kind of in the geeky subculture world over the past week or so. I'm going to start off by throwing this out there because it just came through hot off the press. For people out there who didn't know, Tenet came out on Thursday last week in countries like Australia, where we're kind of in a semi-lockdown. Some states are still in lockdown and some aren't. But Tenet was the first blockbuster to come out post-pandemic. And we're starting to see that perhaps that little bit of a fear about people being scared to go to cinemas is not true. The film, even despite the restrictions, made $2.5 million last weekend in Australia. And that was on top of the $1.5 million that it made from advanced screenings the week before. We're also hearing that the film has made $53 million worldwide over the weekend in 41 overseas countries, of which only 8 were fully open. So you've still got 33 countries there that were screening Tenet that were that had restrictions. So you're probably looking at the same restrictions as what we had here in Australia and what they had in Thailand as well, where it was a limit of, I think, 20 people per cinema. So the fact that the movie's made $53 million off with those restrictions is probably pretty good. So I've got to ask, mate, are you eager to get back to the cinemas, or is cinema something that you're a little bit frightened to go back into post-COVID?
I haven't been frightened the least of any of this. I've been travelling the whole time. I was going into work every day, and I was really annoyed because it all kind of hit when I was getting ready to go and see Birds of Prey, and then I didn't get to see Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
So, and there are, a couple of other things scheduled to come out that I thought, oh, excellent, I'm going to start going to the cinemas a lot again, because I'm pretty close to 2 cinemas where I am.
Yep.
And it was just the worst timing, because every few weeks I'd check and be like, is there a cinema open? Nope. Okay. I'll just sit here and do nothing. But, look, we've spoken about this in previous episodes as well, like how much people are eager to get out again. And even if America isn't, ready to open up cinemas, the rest of the world very clearly is. And this goes to prove that, okay, there's a market for it. All these studios can be making their money and then just do a later release date for America or whatever. But given the state of America, I don't even know why they'd bother closing the cinemas. I don't think it's going to help.
Exactly. I was going to say the same thing. Look, from the way it's going in America at the moment, they might as well just throw the cinemas open. Like, the amount of people that are getting sick over there already and people that are ignoring rules and regulations, you might as well just throw the cinemas open and let people make their own decision whether they want to go and see a movie or not. But the one thing that I found really interesting that's been coming out of this, and I was going to mention it later on with the what have I been watching kind of thing, is the amount of Australian films that are coming out during the pandemic and doing massively well. We've just had Blackwater Abyss, which is an Australian genre horror film, and it got picked up by all these overseas markets to go into cinemas. So you've had a little Aussie genre film opening in Thailand, opening in the US, opening in the UK. Now we're seeing Blood Vessel, which is another Aussie genre flick, has just exploded online with the streaming services.
Blood Vessel has exploded. That sounds good.
Yeah, but it's showing that people are eager for material. I know for me, working in the Thai market, I've been able to watch what's happened there, and a lot of Thai films are coming out because there's no blockbusters, but they've actively been seeking out like Australian films as well to show, because they want to have new films in the cinemas. So this may actually be a time where we see like a bit of a rise in indie cinema, because the big franchises, apart from DC, which we're going to talk about a little while, all the big franchises like Marvel, Fast and the Furious, they've pushed their films back to like mid next year now. So there might be a little bit of a time where you get like the odd blockbuster coming into the cinemas, but it's the perfect time for indie cinema as well, because people are wanting to go and see more films.
Or how quickly can we get a movie up and going?
That's the big question. Now, moving on from that, we did just talk a little bit about DC, but DC had DC FanDome last week, and I guess the three big things that came out of it was James Gunn talking about what we can expect from the new Suicide Squad movie.
Squad, yeah.
The new trailer for Wonder Woman 1984, which gave us a little bit of an indication on who the villain is, and also the Batman first sneak peek with Robert Pattinson as Batman. So, mate, I gotta ask, what did you think of the three things that came out?
Well, I mean, there was a bit more than that as well, but
yeah,
not as full as these things. Yeah, look, I've been hanging out for Wonder Woman since the first one came out, so all these delays are just really painful. But it's looking great so far. I love the whole visual aspect of it. I love that they're playing up the 80s theme of it all, and the first glimpse of Cheetah in full makeup or CG, however they're doing it. It's it hints at being pretty good. So it's been interesting to me because I've liked the Wonder Woman comics for a while, and have been getting them on and off. But for those who don't know the comics so well, the other villain of the piece is that Maxwell Lord, and it's quite famous in the comics that Wonder Woman actually killed Maxwell Lord. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any kind of lead up to that sort of thing. That would make a big change of what we've seen so far. Yeah,
it seems forever since they showed us the first trailer at Supernova this year. It's like they showed us that first trailer and we were all so excited by it, and then it was like, oh, and now you're not going to see the movie until like December. It's like, what? Like, yeah, and the same, like for me, I was going to drive-in theaters when all the cinemas were closed, and every night that I was there, they were showing the trailer for Wonder Woman, and it was like, I just want to see this movie.
Yeah, totally.
But what did you think of the sneak peek for the Batman? Because the other big thing that came out of FanDome as well was that Ben Affleck is going to continue playing Batman now in the Flash movie. So we are going to have two Batmans out there. But what did you think of the Robert Pattinson sneak peek?
Because we've got Michael Keaton returning as well, and I think there are some sneak peek artworks from the upcoming Flash movie, like some inspiration art for what they want it to look like. Yeah. And we actually see Michael Keaton's Batman with the Flash. So it's like, oh, are we going to have three Batmen?
Is he actually going to play Batman though? Because what they were kind of talking about from FanDome,
there's only going to be Bruce Wayne. But this artwork, you probably find it on some media somewhere to do with FanDome. But I think I saw it on YouTube somewhere. But they had, it was very clearly kind of Michael Keaton's Batman from Batman Returns kind of era.
Yep.
In the background with Flash at the front. And, because they were doing some talks about what the new costume was going to be and stuff like that. So, hopefully there might be some sneak peeks of him in the costume. I don't know if it was mentioned in FanDome at all, but I'm kind of keen to see if they'll use him for a Batman Beyond movie that was sort of touted on and off for a while. I think it was just everyone's speculation, but that would be good. It seems they want him to come in because they signed him up for, 10 movies or something?
Yeah, so do you see this as a good thing, having three Batmans? Because I'm guessing that they're not just going to bring Ben Affleck back for a one-off, now that they've been able to secure the Superman as well. Like, are we going to see the DC universe basically in three different universes now? Because you're going to have the Justice League ones continuing with the same cast. You're going to have this whole Flash thing that's happening as well. But I think still there's going to be something a little bit weird there, because Ben Affleck is also going to be in the Flash movie as well, I reckon. So
that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be...
The Flash movie is about kind of, changing history and going through kind of parallel worlds sort of thing. Because of the effects you change in the past changes the future sort of thing. So I think that's where you're going to see these different Batmen.
It's going to be interesting though, because we also saw the sneak peek for the Suicide Squad, and I don't think Ben Affleck had signed back on before they shot that, so you would think that he will not be in that one like he was the first one.
Well, yeah, it's a bit weird, but it sounds, look, from some of the stuff I was kind of looking up, it does kind of seem like there's two kind of different groups at Warner and DC, and one group was like, okay, we're going along, we want Zack Snyder's vision to come along, and then another group takes over and it's like, no, we want to change it all, get rid of Ben Affleck, here, we're greenlighting a whole different Batman series, and then I think they kind of get fired, and then the first group is back, and it's like, okay, we're going to bring Ben Affleck back, so we've got 3 Batmen now. So it just seems like things got a little bit messy there, but...
And still the backflips. These backflips at DC is what gets me. They cast James Gunn to direct Suicide Squad. Then they get rid of him because of a tweet that came out years ago. And then they get him back. They're the same with Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck. Oh, we get rid of both of them, and now we want them back. It's like that whole backflipping kind of thing. It seems so. It's what I think has been exposing the weakness for DC over the years. Like Marvel, with the news about Chadwick Boseman over the weekend, they should be in complete damage control, but apparently they knew about this a long time ago and have been preparing for it. And it's like, how do you have Marvel seemingly running everything so smoothly when DC keep on making these decisions and then backflipping on them? And we've also got to remember that 12 months ago they were saying that there was no Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, that it was a myth that was made up by people online. Now they're releasing it.
And this is where you see, a different group takes hold and is like, clearly this is popular and everyone wants it, so this is what we originally agreed on, so let's greenlight it.
Yeah, and we saw the same with the original Suicide Squad film. The original cinematic release was crap. They denied that there was a director's cut, and then 3 months later they released the director's cut, which was absolutely brilliant. It's like, there's so much, I
didn't find it hugely different, to be honest. I thought there was a couple of extra scenes and it didn't seem... There was more of Joker and Harley Quinn, which gave it more of a grounding to whose eyes it was being told through. I think and there was the bit kind of... I think they played up more about what they originally wanted to do was to have this sort of love triangle thing happening. Yeah. Harley Quinn, Joker, and Batman. And they kind of started to build on that a bit more in that version, I think.
Yeah, I think it grounded it more, because my biggest problem with the original, with the cinematic release of that film, was that it just felt like you were watching like a wrestling bout. Like every couple of minutes there was a new character being introduced. Now it's time for this character. And there was no kind of... it was kind of being told through Batman's eyes, Bruce Wayne's eyes, because he was bringing them together, but it didn't feel right. So when they actually was able to put in the extra Harley Quinn and Joker scenes, to me it gave it more of a feeling of whose eyes it was being told through. It was being told through Bruce Wayne's eyes, but also Harley Quinn's eyes, and yeah, that to me made it a remarkably more grounded and better film for me. Yeah,
no, I do see what you mean there. Look, there's so much, like you said, backflipping. It's getting really strange over at DC.
Yeah.
But look, from what's been shown, they've got some good things coming up. They even had a bit of a teaser for the Black Adam movie that they've been talking about for a couple of years. And it's apparently going to have the Justice Society of America, who were kind of the forerunners to the Justice League.
Yeah.
So there's some interesting new characters coming out of that. We'll have Hawkman, a woman named Cyclone, who I hadn't heard of before, and Atom Smasher, who I think might be going to appear in something else. I'm not sure. And Dr. Fate, who's one of my favourites, so I'll be looking forward to that. I think it's due December next year.
Yep. So talking of the third Batman, what did you think of the sneak peek of Robert Pattinson's Batman movie?
Well, I've got to say, it doesn't look bad. It kind of looks like it's in his early days based on that Batmobile we saw. It's like he's kind of jerry-rigged something out of an old car and, hotted it up to have that Bat aesthetic. There's something interesting about it, so I am getting kind of keen to see what comes out of it. Apparently it's touted that, although there's a few villains in it, like Catwoman, or she might just be the cat at this stage, not fully Catwoman, and Penguin's in it. And
it felt like the Riddler.
The Riddler is supposed to be, I think, the overall villain of the piece, though. So it'll be interesting to see. And they didn't show really anything of him, I don't think.
No, just the little clues. There was, and also, like, I noticed when they closed off the trailer that the release date was coming up in kind of like visual riddles. Like,
yeah, that's right. It was like 2021, but the twos were question marks.
Yeah, which to me was the Riddler. The other interesting thing about that as well is they seem to be placing that movie into the same universe as Joker, because there's big talk coming out of Hollywood at the moment that they want to do a Robert Pattinson Batman up against Joker from the Joker film that we saw. And they're throwing a lot of money towards making that happen. So
I think I'd kind of heard that too.
Yeah.
Even though it was kind of strange because, Joaquin Phoenix said he wanted to do just a single character piece. He was not interested in doing a series, coming back for sequels, and yet they're already talking about doing a second one. So clearly they're building it up into its own thing.
I think it's because they saw how dark the Batman is with Robert Pattinson. The whole talk about getting Joaquin Phoenix back to do that film kind of came out from when the first rushes came through from the Batman, and they saw how dark it was, and it matched the mood of Joker. So,
I do have to say that kind of Batmobile that I was mentioning, it kind of looks like a hotted up old car, and it kind of would fit in what looks like the era that Joker is set, the 80s sort of thing. So it could be this kind of flashback thing. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. The other thing, too, that I think this trailer has kind of silenced is the people out there who were saying that Robert Pattinson was going to be really bad as Batman. I never thought that he would be, because I've been really impressed with kind of the art house movies that he's been making over the past few years. But I love that scene where he, like, bashes the crap out of somebody in the trailer and then says this is vengeance. That to me showed this is going to be a pretty interesting Batman, I think.
Yeah, I actually think that stood out to me as well. I was sort of like, yeah, they're getting the right feel for it, and he didn't do a ridiculous voice like Christian Bale did, so that's a plus.
But
people online have been kind of complaining about a picture that was released, I don't know, not long ago, of him in the mask, and just thought he looked terrible. And I did say it did look a bit odd, that particular picture, but overall, from what I've seen in that trailer and a couple of other little clips, it doesn't look so bad. So I'm ready to give it a go.
But you know what? This happens with every actor who plays Batman. I can remember people were, Michael Keaton's going to play a dreadful Batman. How can you get Beetlejuice to play Batman? Same thing happened then with the Christopher Nolan Batmans. Oh, these are going to suck. Like, Christopher Nolan can't direct Batman. Christian Bale's going to play a woeful Batman. It's like, and then after that series came out, you had a lot of people saying that it was the best Batman series ever. It's like every time they announce a new...
Well, that seems to be the general fandom flip-flop, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's the same with Ben Affleck.
It's horrible, and then, it's great.
Ben Affleck and...
these sort of fandoms, don't you?
Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill were the same. When they both got cast in their roles, people were like, oh, they're not going to play. And then when they both got fired, it was like, well, bring them back. They were really good. It's like... of course...
Yeah, look, I do think there's some weird stuff there. So you can't always give the fans what they say they want, because they clearly don't know what they want sometimes.
Yeah.
But actually, this is probably worth bringing up, since we've been talking about all these different Batman, we've got a new Batwoman as well coming up
Yes,
in
yep.
the next series. And so it's being recast because Ruby Rose decided to leave. And, you know, I was one thinking, oh, how can you replace her? She was quite good as Kate Kane. But they're not replacing the actress as the same character. They're putting in a whole new character. So they've got Javicia Leslie playing Ryan Wilder, who's going to be the new Batwoman.
Yep.
So that's going to be a bit of a change. But I'm really curious now. So again, ready to give it a go. I was kind of wondering what the hell they could do, but look, wait and see, I guess.
Yeah. The other sad news that came out, of course, over the weekend as well was the sad passing of Chadwick Boseman, who
Yes.
Most people would know as Black Panther in Marvel. But when you go through his acting resume, he's done a lot more than that. It came as a complete shock, I think, for most people because he'd been so private about it. But we actually learnt that he'd been battling cancer for 4 years. So made a majority of his Marvel movies while battling colon cancer. How did the news make you feel when it came through?
I thought it was pretty shocking. I'm just like, what? Just out of nowhere? But yeah, when we find out it's been 4 years and he must have been just carrying on. I don't know. It's pretty mind-blowing that he was able to carry on doing all this stuff.
Yep.
It's a bit shocking as well. I actually quite liked him. I would
Yeah.
like to see more work from him, but sadly not now.
I was Googling it when the news first came through. I saw it pop up in my news feed, and I actually thought it was one of those ones. I probably get one every 2 weeks where I'll get something that's like Mark Wahlberg has died, and then like you Google it and you find out, nah, that rumor's been around for ages. It's not true.
Oh,
I actually Googled it, and all of a sudden, like, it was coming up from Variety, Rolling Stone. And I'm like, okay, it's real. Like it, and then I think I went on to Twitter to have a look, and Mark Ruffalo had put up a really touching piece about one of his best friends dying, and I realized that no, this is actually true. But one of the things that I loved about him as an actor was, and it's one of those sad things where he's going to be remembered most for Black Panther, but that last movie that we had in the cinemas here of his, 21 Bridges, I thought that was an absolutely fantastic film that kind of got swept under the carpet. Absolutely fantastic movie about a police detective who gets called out to investigate a murder, and he quickly realizes that the police involved are corrupt, and they're going to turn on him. I thought it was an absolutely fantastic film. I was hoping that they may franchise it, and the character of Andre Davis might have become like his own franchise. But also, I loved his performance in Gods of Egypt, a film that gets like largely slaughtered, but I kind of find it like Green Lantern. It's one of those movies where it gets slammed, but I actually really love it. Like, I thought Gods of Egypt was a great movie, and Chadwick Boseman was in that, and I think it was like the first time I'd actually seen him in anything as well, and I just thought he was great in that. And yeah, I think it's really, really sad, and he's going to be really hard to replace in the Marvel Universe, but apparently the word coming out on the weekend was that Marvel have known about this for a while and have already recast the role of Black Panther, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, that's a bit disturbing. I mean, I guess good that they've known about it and had a contingency, but I hope it's someone who's kind of got the chops that he has. Like, I don't know, he had a really good presence. I enjoyed his performances, even though I didn't love the last couple of Avengers films. I definitely thought he carried a good weight in those movies.
Yeah. So I guess that leads into our regular segment. What have we been watching? What have you been watching at the moment?
Pretty much everything I can. As you're aware, I love Transformers, and I thought I'd go back and watch a series I'd never watched that came out, I think, in the early 2000s, called Energon, and my God, was it the worst thing I've ever watched. It was horrible. So for me, I don't think anything beats Generation 1.
Yeah.
But that was just me torturing myself, and I thought once I started, I had to sit through the whole thing, and I could barely watch it, to be honest, but I got through it. But yeah, more prevalent things that I've been watching were, I discovered a new anime series on Netflix. It was called what's it called? Great Pretender.
Okay.
And you might remember that old song, The Great Pretender. That's kind of the closing theme song of the show. And I kind of just love watching that. It's just this animation with cats, and they kind of join in the chorus. I don't know, I just find it weirdly amusing. Yeah, you're a man of cats. You'll probably get it.
Yeah.
But it's quite good. It's like, what was that series? I think it was from the BBC. Was it called Hustle or something? It was, a group of hustlers.
Yes. Yeah.
Pulling all these great jobs against people and corporations and stuff. And it's a very similar vein. It's a group that they do it against people who are really bad and deserve to be kind of taken down. So they end up making millions by swindling these people, but the people who are bad also kind of get taken down, or they get arrested by the FBI or whatever. So each story is a bit different, but it was quite interesting. I think it's for people who kind of don't get that animation isn't just for kids. That would be a good one to watch. There's a good bit of character development. There's about 3 or 4 different kind of stories in the season, and I think there'll probably be more to come. So that's one to look out for.
Yeah. There's so much good stuff out there at the moment that's like surfacing because of the whole the whole lockdown. I think companies have been putting more up and stuff like that. For me, I've been watching the 2 movies that I mentioned previously. Blackwater Abyss, which is the sequel to a film called Blackwater that came out 13 years ago now, which was a croc horror. Andrew Traucki was the director, and of course he went on to make The Reef and stuff like that. I wasn't a big fan of Blackwater Abyss, I have to admit. The first movie I loved. It came out at the same time as Rogue, and I thought that that Blackwater was actually a better movie than Rogue, because Blackwater felt much more natural than what Rogue did, where it went for comedy and parts and stuff like that. But this new one, it's not written by Andrew Traucki, and I think it shows. It tells the story of a bunch of cave divers who get trapped in a cave with a killer croc while water's rising, but the believability just goes out the window from the start, because a character says to this really experienced cave diver, there's some bad weather coming, it's already hit the north of the state, and he goes, that's alright, we'll just go down. No cave diver would ever go down a cave knowing that there's bad weather, because you never know what systems are linked. So that kind of went out the window, and then nothing really happened. It was a lot of people going, let's go this way. No, now let's go that way. There's the crocodile. Whoops, it ate my friend. It was just there was no, it didn't have the suspense of the first Blackwater at all. The other movie that I checked out recently was the one I mentioned before, Blood Vessel. Fantastic Australian film. It was everything that I wanted from Blackwater and didn't get. Great movie starring Nathan Phillips, the Australian actor, about a group of soldiers, nurses, and doctors who were shipwrecked during World War II, and as they're drifting along in the life raft, they suddenly find themselves up beside a Nazi ship. They're a bit scared about going on board because they think they're going to get taken captive, but they realise being taken captive is probably better than dying at sea. So they go on board the boat. There's no one on board the boat. They cannot find anybody, and then they find a mysterious little girl, and that's when the horror starts. But I loved it. Made by Justin Dix here in Melbourne. Filmed at Williamstown on board an old World War II frigate that's over there. Amazing film. I'm glad that this movie is doing so well overseas on streaming services, because I think it's going to be an absolutely fantastic film that is going to be one of those genre flicks that Aussies are going to be proud of for years and years to come.
That sounds really interesting. I wouldn't mind checking that one out.
Yeah, and when I mentioned that there's vampires involved, I think you'll probably be even more interested.
Well, you know me.
And now
it's funny. Vampires kind of died off for a while. There's kind of phases, isn't there? They get really done for a long time, and then everyone's sick of it. And then they come back. Kind of the same with zombies. It's kind of like it takes turns.
Yeah. And like zombies are making a bit of a comeback as well. Like there's a couple of zombie projects that are coming through. I think Twilight was a big reason why vampires went away for a while. It almost became like a groan-worthy kind of horror because you suddenly had like these sparkly vampires. It's kind of hard to come back from that. But one of the things I loved about Blood Vessel was that these were your original vampire lore vampires. Using mind tricks and stuff like that. The film is gory. It's one of the reasons why I'm kind of surprised it's done so well on streaming services, because it is kind of gory, but it has got a director involved with it who has worked on, he's an Aussie, but he's worked on a few Star Wars movies in the art department, has done the special effects for a few Aussie horror movies over the last few years. But the believability of it just really works because he was able to film it on board a World War II boat. Like, I did an interview with Nathan Phillips about the film, and he said just the fact that they were setting foot on that boat every day just helped them capture the whole magic of that time period and everything. So, yeah, definitely worth checking out if you want to check out Blood Vessel. And that leads us to our other regular segment that we do on the show, and that's where we take a look at an old show and we demand that they bring it back and do something with it. And I think the show I've picked is a show that both you and I really enjoyed.
Very much.
Perfect Strangers. I have fond memories of watching this show at my grandparents' house when I was a kid. I remember it used to come on, I think, every Saturday night, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. So I guess to start off with, what were your thoughts on Perfect Strangers?
I loved the show. Balky's wacky antics versus Larry as the straight man of it all. But it really developed over time, and they kind of had those on-running gags that kind of took off. Every time they got themselves into a situation, Larry would say, "I have," and everyone's get excited, "a plan," and then everyone's like, "Oh no." That was one of the things that always just sticks in my head. And the dance of joy that they used to do. I think the series was great, and I do remember an episode where they kind of acted like Laurel and Hardy from the old 40s, 50s comedy movies, and I actually love Laurel and Hardy, and I thought they were the best interpretations of those classic comedians that I'd ever seen. So I think if they're going to do a Laurel and Hardy kind of remake movie like they did with the Three Stooges a few years ago, get those two guys.
I was actually thinking they could almost do like a Full House kind of thing, like what they've done with Fuller House with Perfect Strangers. They could bring it back as a TV series really, really easily. Like, I know you probably will lose a little bit of the whole of Balky being new to America, because you would imagine now that they would set it with their ages, so he would have been in America for 30, 40 years now.
Sure, but how many years did it go for? And they kind of dragged on the new to America thing probably a bit too long anyway, so
it went for 7
anymore, but it was
7 years, 8 seasons.
By the end of it he definitely wasn't new to America, but there's always cultural things you can put in as jokes that would take that place. Or they have another cousin come over from Mypos or wherever it was. Yeah.
I was thinking you could almost do a reverse as well. You could have them having kids now. Kind of like what they did with the Family Vacation movie a couple of years ago, where they had it that it was Chevy Chase's kids' family now.
Right.
You could almost do it that they've now got kids and they've got grandkids, and they decide for the first time that Larry should go to Mykonos for the first time.
Yeah.
So actually take him over there, like kind of like a vice versa kind of thing, because that still works. I just sat down and watched all of the seasons of Everybody Loves Raymond back to back, and some of the best episodes were when they went to Italy and taking Raymond out of his comfort zone and putting him into something different. But one of the reasons why I think you could do this so easily with Perfect Strangers is this show's never been tarnished. It's one of the only sitcoms coming out like in the 80s where there was no scandal. Everybody is still alive. Like I even looked it up to make sure. Jennifer, who was played by Melanie Wilson is still alive. Rebecca Arthur, who played Marianne, is still alive. So you can have those four central characters there and have them all there and just introduce other characters around them.
Do you remember, what was the name of the boss that they worked for? He's probably not around anymore, but, you know, that would be kind of good to have some...
Yeah.
With him still in it, yeah.
Like, because the funny thing is, Mark Lynn Baker has been in a couple of movies over the past few years where you kind of wondered whether the character that he's playing has actually been Larry. Like, because there's been a couple of movies where he's popped up and it's been kind of weird in the sense that they didn't really like say much about his character, and I think one of them he was even like working at a newspaper, and it was like it's kind of weird that they've done stuff like that. But yeah, he is one like Mark Lynn Baker hasn't changed much over the years as well. So
yeah, he's still got the same sort of looking face. I'm just looking at a picture of him now. He's kind of got the same looking face, just a bit older, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to have a look now. Was it Sam? Was Sam the boss?
Sam Gorpley, that's it. Yeah, Mr. Gorpley, that's it.
Yeah, so that was played by Sam Anderson, and I'm just looking to check and see whether he is still alive or not.
There's Twin Cassetti as well.
Yeah.
Maybe, hang on, who works for who? I can't remember now. Or maybe Gorpley was the neighbor.
Sam Anderson is still alive.
What about Ernie Sabella? Let's have a look.
Yeah. And Sam Anderson's still acting. He was actually in Water for Elephants and Ouija Origins of Evil not that long ago. So, yeah, like you've basically got a green light with the people that you can bring back for this show. And look,
Ernie Sabella is still alive, and he was doing voices for Timon and Pumbaa at the movies.
Yeah, and I said before about taking Larry to overseas, but you could still do the same as having them live in the city kind of thing. Like, you don't even have to take it overseas. That was just one little idea that I was thinking of that you could do, so that you take like Mark Lynn Baker, Larry, and put him somewhere else. But it would probably just work like as a family reunion kind of show too, where they meet their grandkids or they become grandparents for the first time kind of thing, and Balky's way of looking after grandkids is completely different to Larry's way of looking after grandkids, and
yeah, I almost envision that it's kind of going to be one of those old tropes where it's like, okay, we're going to reverse the situation by maybe Larry gets in real financial trouble, maybe he's sort of going bankrupt, but then a relative in Mypos dies and leaves their estate to them, so all they can do now is move over there to survive and, you know, build their lives back up. I can almost see that sort of thing playing out. You know what
I'd love to see? Like, if they really wanted to stretch the comedy, you know how, like, Larry always dreamed about breaking the big story? Like,
yeah.
I would love to see, like bringing politics into it, like he exposes, like, the president or something, and like he has to move to Mypos, like, for his own safety kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
it has to be secret, and he has to like kind of live there because he's like exposed a government official or something like that. Like,
yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah,
that would be perfect, actually. Yeah.
Have you seen what Bronson Pinchot looks like at the moment? It's like
He was in something not long ago that I watched.
Yeah, he like
was it a movie or a TV series? I can't remember now.
he's in The Adventures of Sabrina.
Ah, yeah, that's probably what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the principal in that, which is actually funny because in Riverdale the principal is Kerr Smith, so it's like they've brought back.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They've brought back favorites kind of thing, but yeah, like I don't think there's any reason why a Perfect Strangers reboot or a spin-off wouldn't work with the original cast, because like I said, there's been no scandal around the show. There's been no deaths of the major cast. I think it's perfect to bring back.
Yeah, I think so as well, and it definitely has to be like brought back, not remade and rebooted like they like to do lately. That cast had just kind of a perfect dynamic about them, and you kind of want to keep that. And sure, bring in a new generation, like you said, have their kids in there as, you know, an extra set of characters and whatever, but don't just erase the existing history.
Exactly. And you've got to keep the theme music, because for me, that theme music is the best theme music of any TV show ever. Like, I absolutely...
Exactly, yeah.
I love that theme song. And I wasn't even aware until I bought the DVD that the pilot episode had an even longer version of the theme music. They actually used the theme music to set up what happened in the show, like showing how Larry got to America. So it goes for like 2.5 minutes, like the original version of the theme music as well. So
I do vaguely remember that, actually. Yeah.
So bring back Perfect Strangers, but it has to have that theme song.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
and they've got to be doing the Dance of Joy.
Yes,
Maybe
definitely.
Have a different version of the Dance of Joy.
Yeah, I think you and I did that Dance of Joy a couple of times.
I think we did once, didn't we?
Well, I guess that's it for this episode of Subculture. All your regular favourites segments are back. We've taken a look at the news of what's going on. So, yeah, make sure that you stay tuned to subcultureentertainment.com for all the breaking news and everything. And Harley and I will be back next week to talk more about news and more about the subculture and geek fandom, as we like to call it. But for now, I've been Dave G.
And I haven't been Dave G.
And we'll be back very, very soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.